And we are live. Just checking. It's been a while since we've done this. Had to work on the Battletech review, which actually did quite well. A lot of things going on YouTube. A lot of fun little projects here and there. As many of you know, we got a few other projects working. So, where exactly are we? How are things going channel wise before we start? Recently did a podcast with Rad Ray of Sonic Historian, so I'll probably post a link of that in the community posts. That's going to be a little. So I do recommend subscribing to Rad Ray. He does some good content, as well as Sonic Historian. Other little news. Beat Break continues. I haven't seen any episodes yet. Gonna wait till it ends before I start watching it. What else? What else? For review purposes, we are moving forward. I have the next 3 projects planned. Sort of. We'll see what happens, since sometimes I tend to change around, but that happens. Uh, Other than that, welcome to the Digimon Encyclopedia commentary, where we look at every Digimon and I give my opinion on the design. Per the rules, I give my opinion. I comment on the design. I say what I like about the design, what I dislike about the design, and what I change about the design. Afterwards, I give about like a 30-second rest, both to hear your guys' thoughts as well as let my throat rest a bit. This is a community stream, so if you wish to comment, you're more than welcome to. I do like getting you guys' input on these things. One little thing, whenever I say I like about the design, I can't say, oh, it's just a Digimon, or oh, I don't like because it's not a Digimon. I have to give an actual constructive criticism and compliment. It's not just oh, I don't like this. I have to give a reason. Other than that, I suppose it's best we start. I'm just kind of waiting to see if there's any. Wow, no one's watching. Well, we'll see. We'll see how far we get through this. When last we met, we were on Grizzlymon. Oh, make sure to also watch Digidestiny. Digidestiny. They're on episode 4 of season 2. Which, yeah, they're going pretty far. I'm not affiliated with them. We'll say I'm not affiliated with them. I like seeing their content grow. So we're going to continue on. We're going to start with Growlmon. One other thing, I have to read the profile of the Digimon. Growlmon, a dark dragon Digimon known as the Deep Crimson Dragon. The childishness from its time as Guilmon is gone, as it has digivolved into a wilder, more ferocious creature. Although it is a virus Digimon, Growlmon may become loyal depending on how its tamer raises it. In fact, it might even fight for justice. Its roar is mighty enough to shake the ground, and Growlmon uses it as an aggressive display to intimidate the enemy before battle. It uses its signature move, Plasma Blade, to generate plasma from its forearm blades and attack the enemy. It also has the special move, Exhaust Flame, by which it unleashes a powerful blast of fire with an explosive roar. So, we have a Dragon Digimon. This is, of course, Guilmon's champion. Surprisingly, did not appear that often in Tamers. Of the champions, I think Growlmon, while he did have an important story beat in it in one episode, Growlmon did not appear that often. I think he was the last of the champions, which is not that uncommon nowadays. Back in the day, usually the Gogglehead would get the first champion, but that has changed. So, about the design, we have we're following similar to Guilmon, which was the more, how do I put it? It looks more akin to a costume or cosplay suit, as opposed to what we saw with some other Dragon Digimon, which is more of a dragon. To be fair, that is very similar to Greymon, although in this case we're going for a more muscular appearance rather than the more heavy set of Greymon. In the case of Growlmon, we have Digicode on the design. We have the virus. We have the digital hazard on both the hands and the. Well, no, I don't think that's the digital hazard on the arms, but we do have it on the shoulders, which is a good decision. Things about the design I like. It's a complex design, I will say, but it's in a good way. It feels as though they really want to show a monster. Um, the the digicode is an interesting addition. I think what I like about it is it looks like a Guillemon that has gotten substantially stronger. The white hair is an interesting addition to the design. We also have double horns, which Guillemon kind of had in its previous carnation, but it works here. Um, it looks like it reminds me of I think Riptor from Primal Rage. I think that's kind of what I'm getting from this design. And it overall works. What I dislike about the design, I do. We're not. We're gonna ignore the artwork because we've already established that the artwork in these can be very weird. I'm sorry if I keep turning. I like to keep tabs on what's coming up here on my console. I think what I dislike about the design, I think the horns are a bit much. I think I would have preferred if they were a little shorter. I also think the digicode, while it's an interesting addition, I think it might be a bit much. We already have a fairly complex design, and I think the digicode bands overcomplicate it a bit too much. I like the complexity, but I think we're adding too much greeble. If I were to omit a digiband, I would probably omit it on the tail, or maybe even the legs, because I think they're an unnecessary addition. What I would change with the design, I would. I know the plasma blades are an important part of this, but I think what I would want to do with the plasma blades is maybe take inspiration from the Iguanodon and maybe have it that Guillemon has a thumb with a particularly nasty claw on it. The Iguanodon was known for having a thumb, which people have joked that they would use as a defense mechanism, and I think I would prefer that rather than the Batman blades on the side. Just almost like a small shank thing that Guillemon has as a thumb with like an Iguanodon. I would also probably lower the horns, as I think they draw too much to the head a bit. You already have the white fur. I don't think you need the horns. So, just getting my timer ready. Yeah. So to recap, what I would change with it, what I like about it, it feels like Guillemon has gotten stronger, and I like that. What I don't like about it is, while it's a complex design, and that's good, I think they went a little too overly complex. Just a smidge. And if I were to change it, I would probably omit one of the bands and move the plasma blade to more like a thumb equivalent to an Iguanodon, and the horns shorten. Overall, though, it's a very good design. It almost gets to the perfect, but I don't, given the amount of suggestions and changes I would say to it, I don't think it doesn't. I like the design, I really do, and if it was a little different, I would give it the perfect, but as is, no. And with that, we're going to give it the 30 seconds. Remember, if you guys would like to comment, ask me questions, you can. This stream is, in many ways, a community stream. I do like hearing what you guys have to say. And we're going to move on. This must be a slow day. Last time I did this, a lot of people were here, but it's... I sincerely hope people... Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I was going to... Weird comment on time, but... Growlmon Orange. A Growlmon that's turned orange as a result of becoming a data type. Although Growlmon Orange tends to be subdued than its virus body type counterpart, it's quick to fly into a range if anything goes wrong. With its special move Exhaust Flame, Growlmon Orange can unleash a powerful blast of fire with an explosive roar. We have a recolor, and I don't like recolors. On one, I will say it feels like Growlmon Golden, but it's a recolor, and I don't like recolors because what's the difference? Oh, but it's a data type, but it still has the hazard symbols. So I'll say this right now. You could have omitted the hazard symbol to emphasize, oh yeah, it's, you know, dangerous, but it's not Guilmon dangerous. If this is your favorite version of Growlmon, you know, congratulations, but it's a recolor, and I don't like giving recolors the time of day. So we're just going to move on to the next Digimon. If I feel a recolor is worth it, I might, you know, discuss it in depth, but I don't like recolor Digimon because it's like, why is this here? Now, I will say, compared to the rookies, compared to the rookies, the champions don't have as many recolors. But they're still present, and I think by ultimate, the terminology gets weird. By the next level, they start to die down. Growlmon X Antibody. We're just going to read the X Antibody. Having accepted the exceptional power of the digital hazard into its body and further raising its virus-type attack instinct, Growlmon X Antibody demonstrates ferocity and uncontrollable overflowing power that toes the line of justice depending on how it grows. Even so, it has clearly powered up the blades on its forearms, having grown even larger and generating plasma when it attacks enemies. Growlmon X Antibody uses its special move Raiden Blade to unleash the destructive energy generated by its plasma blade. We basically have Growlmon, but more of a scaly. Substantially more musculature compared to the original Growlmon. We've simplified the design. The bands no longer have digicode, which is an interesting touch. We do have some further striping on the horns, snout, and the ear wings. The digital hazard, though, is gone and is instead just a random Velcro patch. And the horns are still there. I can see where they're going with this. I don't think this is necessary for an X antibody. I think it's, you know, I say scaly. It's basically Growlmon, but we got a scaly artist to really make it. It's certainly a creative interpretation, but I don't think this is the direction to go with Growlmon. It's, you know, I would say there's a reason we don't see too many Growlmon X antibodies out there. I do like that they've really emphasized the head wings. The horns, looking at this compared to the previous, the horns do seem to be a little smaller, but I don't think small enough. I do like the little spikes on the tail. Um, that being so, it's there needs some changes. Things I don't like. I'm a bit surprised they didn't add an X anywhere on the design, like perhaps an X on the chest to indicate X antibody. Um, really, things I don't like about the design. I like the head wings. I like the tail thing. I don't like that it's basic. It's basically a scaly fursuit. I hate to say that, and I don't think that was the right call. If I were to change this design, I think what I would do, move the head wings more to the back and really emphasize more into not Vmon. Uh, let me get the Digimon up real quick. It's Vmon's evolution. Not Vidramon. I would want to do it almost like a dark mirror of XVmon. Actually, a lot of what I would want from this is in XVmon. The X chest, the wings on the back. I think that's what I would prefer to make this look more like XVmon. That's the big change I would do with this design. Maybe make it equivalent, make it like the red Oni to XVmon's blue Oni. But that's me being poetic. Overall, I can see potential of the design, but I don't think this was the right call to make with this. So to recap, it leans too much into the scaly fursuit, and I don't think it works. If I don't like that they don't have an X symbol again for X antibody. If I like the head wings being bigger, and I do like the spikes on the tail. And I do like that they've simplified the design a bit. If I were to change it, I would probably move the head wings to the back and add the X. Basically, what I'm saying is make it a red XVmon. So, yeah. 30 seconds. Let's have some water. And now we move on to the next Digimon. Gardramon famously appeared in Tamers. I think it was either Kento or Kazu. I confuse Kenta and Kazu. A machine Digimon that protects computer network firewalls. Gardramon used to fight off anyone attempting to breach a firewall alongside Netkeeper Giromon until malicious hackers infected Gardramon with a virus to make use of its impenetrable defensive abilities. These hackers now use Gardramon to protect themselves from a group of righteous vaccine Digimon known as the Virus Busters. Since Gardramon's basic programming only involves commands to defend, it has no problem repelling invaders regardless of its new role. Uses its special move, Destruction Grenade, to pursue invaders to the ends of the earth, then destroys them. However, Gardramon will only ever attack intruders. We have a very... So we basically have a mech suit. It reminds me a lot of the mech suit from Chrono Trigger. It was either Chrono Trigger. It was either a mech suit or a character. I've never played Chrono Trigger. One of these days I do, but It very much has a Toriyama feel to it, which makes me think this is one of the earlier designs, but I could be wrong. It's steampunk robot. They re- we do have the missile, which has, well, an alarm, a light on its top, as well as a whistle. Uh, I like that Toriyama influence that they went with this. That being said, I don't really think this leans that hard into guarding. Uh, I like the Toriyama influence, is what I'm saying. What I don't like is the lack of really any emphasis of guarding. I can understand if, say, it had a shield or some kind of Zaku shoulder shield, but it doesn't. If I were to change this, I would probably want to add on both shoulders. You see this on Zaku's, but you especially see it on the Gyaradoga. Sort of a shoulder shield to really emphasize that this thing guards. Like, it can move its shields out to make itself bigger to stop things. Other than that, it's a pretty neat design. I will give it the perfect because, well, they made it work. It's just it doesn't really feel like a guard. So to recap, I like the Toriyama feel of the design. I don't like that they didn't really go defensive with it, and they made a good robot, but it doesn't feel like it guards things, outside of the missile. But that's more of just the attack thing. If I were to change it, I would probably add shields on its shoulder pads, like giant pauldrons, similar to like what you see on the Gyaradoga or on a Zaku. But yeah, this does get the perfect. 30 seconds. By the way, how am I coming out on the microphone? Is it coming out good? That's the right one. Now we move on to our next Digimon. Gardermon Gold. Guarding a Chrono Digizoid mine, Gardermon transformed itself to withstand the merciless repeated raids by illegal miners. Gardermon's armor is said to be the result of taking chrome Digizoid dust data floating in the air. The armor is more durable than normal Gardermon's, and its special move, Destruction Grenade, succeeds in boasting slightly more output. On the other hand, Gardermon Gold's armor is heavier, and this is the primary reason why its movements have been dulled overall. It is a recolor, and we already know my opinion on recolors. And it's a particularly bad one, because all they did is they spray painted it gold. So we're just going to move on. Gulus Gamamon. The evil heart hidden within Gamamon was unleashed, digivolving it into a violent Digimon. Gulus Gamamon rejects outside interference and thinks of nothing but battle. When it gets its hands on the opponent in front of it, it will continue its assault until their life is extinguished. Its battles are brutal, and even if its limbs are crushed, it still continues the attack without concern. Gulus Gamamon uses its special move, Dark Pails, to crush the enemy with dark flames gathered in its hand. Our Desdemona to hurl those dark flames while preserving their might. It also uses Dead End Skewer to pierce the enemy's vitals with its tail, annihilating them with pinpoint accuracy. So this is a newer Digimon from Ghost Game. I know people have their opinions on Ghost Game, but we're not going to go too deep into that. Things about the design. We have a dark Digimon, and it really does feel evil, and I think it works well to show that this thing is a monster. You know, this thing is nasty. Um, I like the pink highlights. Looking at it, it kind of reminds me of like a skeleton. It really works. The cloak, again, really works. That was a good touch of them. Uh, this is a very dangerous Digimon. And I like that about it. They really made it that this is evil. A lot more than some of the other evil Digimon I've seen. That being said, there are some things I don't like about the design. I don't like the claws on its feet. Those read more like a bird. And Gamamon more leans towards a Triceratops. I don't like these claws. I think I would have preferred it just either make them like spikes, like from Signalis, just spike feet, especially given what we know about Gulus Gamamon. Uh, as for what I like about the design, it's evil. I like that. Um, what I would change, make the feet more like spikes, perhaps adding, keep the gold but make them spikes, as if it's going to, pierce you with its feet, pierce you with its tail, and pierce you with a headbutt. Really make it that this thing's going to destroy you. I would also probably add a little bit of gold to the hand claws, just to keep the theme up. Overall, though, I will give this design the perfect. They really nailed it. To recap, I like that they made an evil Digimon. It feels evil, and I should be afraid of it. I like the pink highlights, and especially how it almost looks like a skeleton. I don't like the claws on the feet. They feel too much like a bird. If I were to change it, I would make these just spikes and make the claws on the hand golden to fit the color theming. But like I said, perfect design. They nailed it. This is a perfect. This is kind of what you want to lean towards. So, 30 seconds. I do want to ask you all, how are things doing? I'm doing fine as is. Although stress from something has caused me to be a bit. Oh, this is a slow day. And we're moving on to the next Digimon. Garurumon. This is one of the earliest Digimon. A beast Digimon who's a dead ringer for Garurumon. Garurumon is a brutal beast who lives in the shadows. A troublesome creature who sows discord wherever he goes. It uses its special move, Chaos Fire, to breathe red-hot flames from its mouth. Oh! It's a recolor. It's a recolor. They didn't even bother adding too much of a change of color. They just didn't use the blue airbrush. That is disappointing. I'm just going to move on. Because they did not even bother. Wow. That's, for a recolor, that's bad. They just removed a color. I'm not. Hakubamon. A holy beast Digimon possessing features from both horses and eastern dragons, of course, including sharp claws, whiskers, and scales. Hakubamon lives alone in mountainous regions without forming groups. Its platinum fur and draconic scales repel fire, and have helped it when rescuing in-training and rookie Digimon that were late to escape from wildfires. Due to its proud disposition, it seldom lets anyone on its back. However, there have been reportedly been sightings of Hakubamon allowing Sanzomon onto its back before heading off to places of its own will. Its special moves include Severing Dragon Claw, with which it rends enemies with its sharp golden claws, and blazing beads, with which it launches the beads from its neck at its foe. The beads pursue them for as long as evil intent rides in their heart, beating and burning them to submission. So I believe this is a Journey to the West reference, specifically of the dragon horse that Tripitaka rode. I could be wrong, and I don't know who Senzomon. Who is Senzomon? Just Tripitaka. It is exactly what I thought it was. So, Journey to the West reference. I like that they actually they made a Digimon based on the horse, because the horse is one of those characters that kind of gets forgotten in a lot of adaptations of Journey to the West. And I'm glad that they at least remembered it. So I'll give it that. I will say they lean, for the design, they do lean it's an interesting mixture of horse and dragon, but I think they lean a bit more into the horse. Because this, outside of maybe the head and the front feet, it doesn't really read dragon. It reads more horse. Now, I'm not saying we have to go all gold ship with the design, but I think they could have done something a bit more to emphasize that this is a dragon. This is also a dragon. Whether that may be adding in a horn, maybe horns, a horn or two, maybe adding some kind of more scales. As is, it doesn't feel dragon enough. If I were to change it, I would probably add more scales to the design. On both paws, on both feet. Horses don't have paws. On both legs, on both sets of legs of the Digimon. And I would probably also add a horn. Overall, it's an interesting concept, and it's an okay design. So to recap, I like that they're referencing a character from Journey to the West that doesn't get a lot of recognition. So that's something I like. I don't like that they didn't do enough of the dragon aspect. If I were to change this, I would probably add a horn and maybe add more scales to the overall design. It's an okay design. It's not great, but it works for what it's supposed to be representing. 30 seconds. But yeah, when we get to the Sun Wukong Digimon, which will come up in the later levels, I'll give my reasons why I'm not a big fan of Sun Wukong. High Commandramon, a heavy infantry Digimon of the D Brigade. It is said that many of the 100 Commandramon who don't pass the special screening exam selection D will digivolve into High Commandramon. Its main role is to act as a shield, protecting the Commandramon assault troops with its massive build and protective armor. Like Commandramon, its skin has been modified with special texture that detects and displays surrounding colors in real time. Its special moves are a DCD grenade, which launches projectiles from a multiple grenade launcher, and Destroy Charge, a physical assault that uses its defensive shield. DCG grenade is equipped with a special warhead that can instantly switch between explosive, smoke, and acoustic modes. So, for the longest time with D Brigade Digimon, the only champion level we had was Sealsdramon. And they said that only a select number of Commandramon became Sealsdramon. We now have a alternative for Commandramon, and yet it feels like a heavy hitting Commandramon. One of the things I didn't like about Sealsdramon is it omits the gun of Commandramon. Here, we have a Mycore grenade launcher, a Mycar MGL, multiple grenade launcher, which is interesting that Digimon added that. The design reminds me a lot of an Ogren, and if they ever sold this in a gacha or as a toy, I'm fairly certain they would be exceptionally popular amongst the Warhammer community just to use this as an alternative to Ogren. As for the design, I do like it. It it's a very it's an interesting design in that it follows more of what Commandramon is. Now, what I don't like about the design, I think the horn is a bit much. It's a bit impractical, especially with the shield, because that's going to get in the way. But other than that, I don't really have too much problem with the design. What I do like about it is, hi Zexel Chaban 5451. Didn't see you there. We're just going through the different Digimon. Right now we are on High Commandramon, giving my opinions, what I like, what I dislike, and what I would change. I do this, I try to do this every other Monday. Sometimes I don't because, yeah, I like to work on my reviews. But back to High Commandramon. I appreciate that they gave the Digimon a Mycar MGL. Did you watch Digimon Adventure Try? Back in the not when it initially came out, but I did. I got Try when it was sold on Steam, and I've also seen it in Japanese. One day I do hope to review Try. I haven't seen Last Evolution yet, or Beginning. Those are two films I need to see at some point. As for Commandramon, High Commandramon, I like that they added the Mycore. Things I would change: remove the horn, probably remove the aiming device on the Mycore, and just add something like a hollow point or a EOTech. Otherwise, I would give this a perfect, because it feels like a champion level of Commandramon, a bit more than Sealsdramon, and I'm glad that we have an alternative. I do wish we get another champion that maybe has something like a Gatling gun or a machine gun, but that's beside the point. So, things I like that it feels like a continuation of Commandramon. Is good or bad? Let me first finish this. I would remove the horn. I like the Mycore. If I were to change this, I would remove the horn and maybe add a EOTech to the Mycore. When I watched Try, I liked it. I thought, at the time, it was about the only thing they've done with adventure, and there was this long, we don't know what we're going to do with Digimon, and it was I going in it knowing that there wasn't anything after it. It was pretty neat seeing something more with Digimon. I watched Digimon Last Evolution and to the Beginning, but I didn't watch. What I would suggest, if you're going to watch Try, go in knowing with the idea that there's nothing that comes after, and kind of feel that, what's that word? Watch it with the feeling that Try doesn't have any continuation. That after a long time, this is all we got. Is that good? Yeah. Happy March Madness. Yeah, Renamon 5658. March Madness. I don't really watch basketball, so actually make sure that that's basketball. Yep. NCAA. Go basketball. But anyway, I like to Try. I think Try is okay. It has some problems, but I liked it. So this is why I like doing these streams, because I like talking with you guys all and seeing your responses. So we give like a 30 seconds on this Digimon. And with that, moving on to the next Digimon. I'm still here to answer questions if you guys wish to talk, because I do like hearing what you guys have to say, and I do like answering these little questions from time to time. We're going to hold off on this just for a bit before we get to the next Digimon. And with that, we're going to go to High Vision Monetamon. Okay. High Vision Monetamon is the latest model of Monetamon, which surpasses its older versions in combat ability, analytical thinking, and information gathering. It is the finest variety of Monetamon and excels at applying its unique skills. Always up to date on all the news in the digital world, it uses information to constantly lead the Monetamon Corps to victory. This has earned it the nickname Black Signal, as well as the trust of the Monetamon who follow it. Its one flaw is that while its ability to analyze the information it's gathered to formulate a plan as an admiral, it sometimes gets so carried away conveying this to its followers that it won't stop talking. The Denji Maru it holds in its hands is a versatile weapon, excelling at both offense and defense. Defensively, it can absorb an attack and transform its energy into particles, switching to offense by charging up those particles to unleash a blast of energy with Film Buster. Hold on. What's more, High Vision Monetamon can also use its Denji Maru as a baton of command, enhancing the attacks of its Monetamon troops to their utmost limit with the particles produced by the Denji Maru. High Vision Monetamon can also take direct control of nearby Monetamon by sending out a signal from the antenna on its head with photoelectric execution formation. This allows the Monetamon to work in perfect sync, forming a squad of versatile fighters that can outmaneuver the enemies before finishing them off. High Vision Monetamon is also a well-rounded fighter in its own right, with more powerful versions of Monetamon's techniques: Flame Burst, Water Sprout Cannon, Whirlwind Wind Tunnel, Thunderous Lightning Attack, and Instant Reconnaissance. It's even gained access to a healing technique Monetamon never had with Healing Skylight. Okay. I don't like this Digimon. But to answer your question, Renamon5658, what Digimon do you think best could be the mascot for Valentine's Day? I am a fan of roses, so I would say Rosemon. I would also argue Pixiemon. Those are the two I would say are the mascots. We also have Venusmon, although yeah, Venusmon could work. So I would argue those are the three Digimon I would select as the mascot for Valentine's Day. Either Pixiemon, because it's basically a putty, Venusmon, or Rosemon. Excuse me. I'm sorry. This Digimon's whole description was just too much. So I'm sorry about that. So, about this design, it's basically a flat screen television ninja, probably stealing cable. Things I don't like about this design. This. Why did this need this big description? I I I no. Um as for what I like, it's interesting that it's a television ninja. Not the best, but it's there. If I were to change it, I would change this profile. Um, I would also probably remove the antenna on its head. I don't like this Digimon because of this whole description. We're going to give 30 seconds because my throat needs that. We're not going to stick on this Digimon for too long. Water. By the way, I apologize if I don't respond fast enough to comments. There's a bit of a delay between what I'm reading and what you guys are seeing and watching, so I apologize if that delay is a problem. But I do my best. And let's move on because I don't like this Digimon. What's your opinion of the on the ending of Digimon 02? I think the ending spoiled the final Kazuna, and I was disappointed when I found out that Hikari and TK didn't become a couple. Um, my problem with 02's ending, I think I've said it in the review, but if I didn't, it feels for a children's show, it's very optimistic, which is a good thing. But I do think they may have leaned more towards too optimistic. Um, it is a bit odd that Hikari and TK are not a couple, especially since, and I've seen people comment on it, that the artwork seems to indicate that they are a couple at times. But that's not the route that they went, which is very weird. I have no problems with Tai and uh, Sora not being a couple, and it's Matt and Sora. I apologize if I'm using the English words, English names, Tai Chi and Yamato. Um, again, a bit of an odd thing, but again, back in Adventure, they tried to make sure that this wasn't the main couple. Um, Matt being an astronaut is a bit odd, especially since that's not something he really showed interest in. I'll say this as someone who went from working at a hot dog stand, security guard, briefly a moment in the Navy, then got discharged and went back to security, and now running this as an Etsy. I'm not going to post the Etsy link. Um, Life can throw a lot of curveballs, so it's weird in the case of Matt. In the promotional folders, they were holding hands. Exactly. That it's very odd that they say they're not a couple when there's some indication of that. Now that might just be the promotion staff going, "Oh, clearly they're a couple," and then that happens. There's been promotion staff sometimes messes up. Um, Part of the ending's issue is I don't think Kari and TK really had much interaction with each other outside of they were they were from the previous generation of Digidestined. But eh. Do you think time? Do you think Stranger Things season 5 finale copied Digimon 02 finale? I did not watch Stranger Things, so I couldn't comment. If that's what they did, I would need to know the extent of what they copied. Because if it's just, the kids have gotten older and they've do weird jobs, that happens. My work experience is like that. But without context, I'm afraid I can't really comment about Stranger Things. Um, Unless they did something weird where they said two of the characters got together that showed no chemistry, in which case, eh. So I apologize. I have not seen Stranger Things. I've heard mixed opinions on it. So maybe one day I'll see it. Maybe one day might even review it. But for the time being, I have no knowledge of Stranger Things other than what memes have told me. And from what I understand, I didn't watch Stranger Things season 5. Zexol Bachman, I didn't watch Stranger Things season 5. So I couldn't comment. Although from what I understand, the villain they showed was kind of a terrible design or terrible idea. But I didn't watch Stranger Things. Sorry. The main villain, the main villain Stranger Things used kids to open a new dimension, and one of the main characters became a writer like how TK was. I mean, when you have my understanding of Stranger Things, when you have a wild life, yeah, you will write things down and profit off it. So I don't think they I don't think they copied I don't think they copied O2. It's a very common story element, a very common writing trope. If they did copy it, it's a pretty lazy copy, but I don't if that's all they really did, I don't see that being a problem. Now, if they start saying like one character was a noodle cart guy, but I watched a video on Instagram. He addresses this topic. I don't really use Instagram, but if that's what people think that it is a copy, then well, I suppose so. But yeah. Uh, I will say this about Stranger Things. My next review is partially connected to X Files. It's amazing to me how much of an impact Stranger Things had, and then it kind of fell off. In a way, it kind of reminds me of X Files, where it had this big impact on pop culture, and then it started to die down. Although with Stranger Things, it seems to have been a rapid fall off, as opposed to X Files, which has kind of continued for a bit. Maybe not to the extent that, say, Doctor Who or some other IPs did, but it does remind me of X Files, just from a pop culture standpoint. Uh, but moving on to Hookmon, not Hackmon, Hookmon. A one-eyed pirate Digimon, Hookmon ventures around the net ocean in pursuit of the fabled white Wamon. And they have their designs weird. Braving the raging waters as a Digimon of the seas. Its right hook is a hook-shaped claw, and once it's begotten a hold of its foe, it hangs on no matter what. Hookmon uses its special move Captain Cannon to fire a cannonball from its left hand. Okay, first off, Captain Hook never hunted a white whale. He hunted Peter. Did you watch Digimon Data Squad? No, but I did have the game. I didn't play a lot of it. It was basically I went to a used game store and I asked if they had a Digimon game, and that was what they had. I also bought a copy of Counter-Strike for the Xbox. If I ever review Data Squad, I am going to have to do that joke with Counter-Strike. I do want to review Data Squad. The only issue is the complete DVD. I don't think they ever released a complete DVD of the show. I think there's some DVD out there with most of the episodes, but a full complete DVD was not released. So I'm going to have to find a way to get footage if I review it. which probably means Internet Archive. Yay. Maybe might even use that to watch tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. Maybe. Who knows? But no, I never watched Data Squad. I didn't know what channel Data Squad was on. You have to understand, when I was a kid, I mostly watched Cartoon Network, Disney, and Nickelodeon. I knew that there was some channel that was airing Digimon early in the morning, but I didn't know which channel that was. I always assumed it was on uh, Jetix or Toon Disney. The problem with Toon Disney is we only had one television that got to that channel, and my mom liked to watch that television watching QVC and Lifetime. And between watching Toon Disney and G4, if I ever got access to that television, I would watch G4. Because G4 had X-Play, and I liked X-Play. I'm aware there are some comments about Adam Sessler. Let's not discuss this. That can be for another time. And yes, I did try to watch the reboot of G4. One day I want to do a whole retrospective of G4 and just my whole comment on how that was mishandled. But no, I never watched Data Squad. So my knowledge of Data Squad is very limited. Outside of the game, which I played like maybe twice and then never put it back in. But as for Hookmon, they're confusing Captain Ahab with Captain Hook, and it doesn't work unless Captain Hookmon. They're just going with. They're just making a Digimon with a hook and just going, this is Hookmon. But knowing that there's also a Digimon called Captain Hookmon, the reference is weird. I think when they made this, they went more with the route of this is Captain Hook. They made a pirate Digimon, which is cool, and it works. This very much looks like a Banjo-Kazooie villain, or a collectathon villain that you would destroy to collect something. It's a champion level, so this feels more like a Mook compared to Captain Hookmon or a higher level Digimon. What I don't... so I like the pirate aesthetic. It's a simple design for the most part. I don't like the design that... I think they may have went a bit overboard with the hook. I know it's a Hookmon, but I think this is a bit excessive. And again, they're referencing Captain Hook, but this is not... Well, we already have a Captain Hookmon, so... I do like the skull and bones on the hat. That's a neat little touch. If I were to change this, I would add a peg leg, because pirate, and lean more towards the Captain Ahab aspect. I might even suggest adding a spear, just to lean more towards Captain Ahab, because we have White Woman. If you're going to make a Captain Hook reference, you have to reference the gator that ate the clock, or Peter Pan. This is Captain Ahab, not Captain Hook. Is it a perfect design? No. It feels like a pirate. It feels like a collectathon villain rather than a Digimon. I think part of it is just it's cartoony. It works. I like that. But if you're going to lean towards pirate, you really need to lean in towards pirate by doing things like adding a peg leg. The hook is a bit unnecessary. I think it's a bit too big. 30 seconds. So, no, actually, let me rephrase that. So things I like the cartoony pirate design. I don't like that the hook is this big thing, especially since this is a reference to Captain Ahab. And if I were to change it, I would have added a peg leg. So, 30 seconds. I will say, going back to He needs he needs a parrot. He needs a parrot. You have a pirate without a parrot. He needs a parrot. Doesn't matter if it's a little tiny skeleton. He needs a parrot. Thank you, Renamon5658. Hookmon needs a parrot. In fact, I would almost call this Digimon Pirate-mon. But no, they went Captain Hook. This is why I like getting your input, you guys' input on this, because you see things that I don't. And my throat's acting up. We're going to try and get as far as we can. I need Hover Espimon. After successfully acquiring accurate information from several investigations, Espimon upgrades its functions in order to gain more precise data. It can fly, sail, or dive long distances, go as deep as 20,000 meters down to the net ocean, or the same distance up into the sky to investigate hiding Digimon. Its camouflage move, Divanish, has also been upgraded. All traces of Hover Espimon will disappear, both visual and auditory, so it can easily infiltrate as needed or confuse its enemies. It utilizes its VR goggles to accurately calculate where targets will be several seconds in the future. However, Espimon's strongest attack is Stamper Missile, in which it fires missiles from 2 launchers on its back. It can also shoot the Vulcan Cannon on its chest with Chest Cannon, or throw up a smokescreen to hide itself and its allies with Dronger, the latter of which is useful in strengthening its surveillance capabilities. There are rumors that there are crack teams in various areas using Hover Espimon to engage in wars of intelligence. Okay. We have the Starship Enterprise, but if it got hijacked by a bear, which, going off of what I know about Star Trek, seems like something that probably happens in one of the episodes. I have a feeling Janeway has a way to fix it, but what that entails, I don't know. As for the design, Starship Enterprise, I think that's a neat little nod. I know they're going towards it's a flying saucer, but with these aerials, it's more Star Trek. We have a very mechanical Digimon. Kind of reminds me more of like a combat suit rather than a full Digimon. It certainly has that sci-fi aesthetic, which is interesting. Things I don't like. I think the Star Trek reference may be unnecessary. I think these aerials pull a bit much from it being a stealth thing, because this doesn't feel stealthy. If you want to make stealthy, you want be inspired by something like, say, the SR-22 Blackbird or the B-2 Stealth Bomber, and this doesn't feel like that. Maybe if these were on the side, more like the Blackbird. Actually, let me make sure I'm getting the right aircraft. SR-71 Blackbird. Yep, that's the right aircraft. I would probably put those more towards the side, but as is, this doesn't feel stealthy. If what I were to change with it, 1, I would omit these and just leave more towards the flying saucer. 2, we're told that there's a Vulcan cannon in the chest. I would probably really emphasize that Vulcan Gatling gun, because like on the A-10, to show that it has a chest cannon. The other thing I would change is probably make the top area look more like a hatch, with the idea that, this is Hover Espimon, but this is more of just the armor that Heavy Espimon wears. There's still a little tiny, Espimon in the center that kind of closes down and locks down when it's flying around. I might also suggest adding some bits of black paint onto the design to emphasize stealth. You know, like the B2, the SR-21, the Nighthawk. Um, Actually, I would probably go the route of the Nighthawk. Remove these engines. Either make it a saucer or just have two uh, rear rear wings in the back. As is, it's an okay design. I'm not a fan of it. Um, Also, they're kind of mixing a bit of a submarine, but it's not my design. So to recap, okay design. I'm I like that it feels like a suit of armor. I don't like these engines in the back. And if I were to change it, I would add a bigger Gatling gun in the chest. I would add black paint. I would add a hatch to imply that the Digimon rides in this. And if I were to add something in the back, I would either add tail fins, or I would put these engines into the side to take more of an inspiration from other stealth jet. But otherwise, it's an okay design. 30 seconds. Moving on to the next Digimon. Hoodimon. An insect Digimon with a humanoid form and butterfly wings. Hoodimon is cautious at first, but reveals cheerful, playful expressions once it gets comfortable. It traverses the digital world, fluttering elegantly in places the light touches. Hoodimon's existence is akin to a backup of the digital world, accessing the world's records and saving the immense quantities of data within itself. Even if a disaster were to cause all the records and memories of the digital world to vanish, the last data will be restored as long as Hoodimon is around. It uses its special move, Flying Kick, to soar high into the air with an eponymous kick, or Infinity Dream to flap its wings to create gusts of wind carrying its scales. Infinity Dream can inflict poison or paralysis on Hoodimon's foes, but is mainly used to ease the pain of injured allies and lift their spirits. There's a spoiler thing to this, which we're not going to talk about. We have a champion level Digimon. It's a butterfly, which in Japanese culture, butterflies signify death. Yes, I played Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, and I'm aware of the connection of the butterfly to quiet. It really feels like an insectoid fairy, and I like that concept. I do think, given its importance and its design, it feels a bit too simple for a champion. I would make this either a Mega or an Ultimate, just to emphasize how important this Digimon is. Also, it's a bit weird, especially knowing Meikumon. What I like about the design, looks like a insectoid fairy. What I don't like about the design, it feels too powerful for a champion. This should have been weakened just a bit to emphasize the champion thing. And if I were to change it, it really comes down to the humanoid frame. I would think of something smaller, maybe akin to like a standard insect as opposed to a human. If this wasn't a champion, I would have given this the perfect. But because it is a champion, it loses out on that. So the recap, I like the idea of an insectoid fairy being. I think the design isn't a champion. This looks more like a higher level Digimon, and if I were to change it, I would make it try to make I would omit the humanoid design for something smaller and maybe more cutesy to really show that this is a champion, and then as it becomes more human, it leads to those higher levels and its higher importance. If I'm being caged at 30 seconds, if it seems like I'm not talking a lot about it, I know it's connection to one of the games and I'm being quiet about it. So, yeah. Hyogamon. A species of Ogremon that lives in cold regions, Hyogamon has a strident sense of territory, flying off the handle and attack anyone who steps even a foot inside. Apparently, it sometimes gets into clashes with Majayamon over territory. Its special move is Snow Punch is Chilling Blow. So it's a recolor of Ogremon, but we're leaning more towards ice. I mean, I appreciated that they changed it by by adding ice structures to it, but I don't. No, we're moving on. It's a recolor. I'm not a big fan of recolors, and I don't think it does enough. Ice Devimon. A dark angel Digimon with a heart as cold as ice. This is the form that Devimon with the cruelest heart takes after Digivolution. Ice Devimon deceives its foes with its silver tongue, then envelops them in wings of ice to freeze them. Okay. So this is basically just a Devimon wearing a white suit. If you're going to make it an Ice Devimon, and I'm going to say this right now after reading the description, give it ice structures. You know, I say about the last Digimon, oh, it's just an Ogremon with the added ice. They did more than what they did with Ice Devimon. If you're going to say an ice cold heart, show that he's ripped his heart out because it's too cold. Make the wings made out of pure ice. Really emphasize that this is an ice Digimon and not, oh, we forgot a layer of color on our Digimon. I am aware of his connection to Rika. I'm just going to say, this is why I don't like recolors. Because you have interesting profiles, but then they do nothing with it. And we have an interesting profile that nothing is done with. And you get these recolors that don't feel like they're that much of a change. If this had been more icicle, more ice, more frozen, I would give it the chance. But because it's just a recolor, no. We're gonna move on. And Icemon. Digimon body made of ice. Icemon's origins are currently being researched. Perhaps it digivolved from Gutsumon, or maybe it's some sort of mutation. Its special move, Ice Ball Bomb, involves throwing ice-cold bodies of bombs at foes. Another recolor. It's the same Digimon, and I'm no. We're moving on. But I gotta say this about that line of Digimon, of Gatsumon line. That is perhaps some of the laziest examples of copy and paste I have seen in a franchise. I can understand if they added more rocks to it. They didn't. And because I don't want to leave you guys on a recolor, we're going to end with Ikakumon. Ikakumon, a sea beast Digimon discovered in a computer at an Arctic research facility. Ikakumon's thick pelt and sturdy body are made to withstand polar temperatures. The sharp horn growing from its head is made of mithril, a rare metal, and the skin beneath its pelt is just as hard. Ikakumon's clawed limbs are capable of emitting blistering heat as well. As a result, Ikakumon can always maintain a firm foothold when walking on ice, even if unable to move quickly. In combat, Ikakumon will threaten opponents with a bold roar, much like a lion. Its special move is Harpoon Torpedo, by which it fires the horn on its head at opponents, as the horn can be regrown. So, Ikakumon. Ikakumon is one of the early Digimon, but surprisingly did not appear in Digimon World 1, if I recall correctly. Or I may be confusing that with Gomamon, because I know Gomamon isn't in World 1. I don't know about Ikakumon. I could be wrong, but I know Ikakumon is one of the early Digimon. We have here a seal Digimon. Well, actually more of a walrus Digimon. Big, heavy, survives. Well, I say walrus, I'm going off of the tusks. But to me, it's a weird mixture of walrus and narwhal. I like that they didn't just make it, oh, here's a walrus and move on. They actually went out of the way to add the horn, and I think that really does help the design. If I were to change this design, I would probably add some maybe darker fur on the back. Perhaps, something to break up the white coloring, because there's a lot of white coloring in this design, and it needs some kind of color to break it up. I probably would even suggest adding stripes to the Harpoon Torpedo. What I don't like about the design, I think it needs to break up something with the design, some extra color, and it's a little too bright of a design. I do like the claws. Overall, it's a very competent design. I will give it the perfect. It's not too complex, has some neat design elements, and the changes that I would suggest to it are very minor. So overall, it gets the perfect. So like I said, I like the concept. I like the idea of a sea lion walrus torpedo thing. I like the claws. I don't like that it's very monocolor, and if I were to change it, I would probably add a darker coloring to the back and stripes on the horn. 30 seconds. And with that, we're going to call this stream, ending on Ikakumon. We actually went a pretty good bit today. I am a bit disappointed that a lot of the Digimon were recolors, and we had that one Digimon that was a long description. It was nice talking about Digimon media, learned some things about Stranger Things. Like I said, we're going to be continuing this up in another 2 weeks, hopefully, provided nothing weird happens. Things about the channel. Working on my next review. Probably going to do an audio recording later after this. Other little tidbits. We're slowly moving through the subscribers. Once we reach 500 subscribers, I plan on opening a Discord for the channel, which is why liking and subscribing is very important. It helps promote things. Like and share the content, both my videos and these streams. Highly recommend watching DigiDestiny. They're currently going through Season 2. And look up Rad Ray and Sonic Historian. I was in their recent podcast talking about some Sonic X episodes. And, yeah, that's kind of how things are going right now. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys when I see ya. I may post a... what's that called? Why are my memories messing up? I'll post a poll to see if there's any sort of changes to streams you guys would like to see. Perhaps have me stream a game one of these weeks. We'll go do a little bit of game streaming. Talk with you guys while that happens. But we shall see. Like I said, like and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time. Bye. I really wish YouTube would just let me, when I press end stream, to end stream immediately. Well, bye.